11 a.m. That's the time he said I'd be pulled back. I've been watching the digital clock on the motel nightstand like it was counting down to an execution. The neon red numbers were all I could see, burned into my eyes every time I blinked. I hadn't left the room since I got here, not even once. Every time I tried, Mephisto's voice would come haunting from the depths telling me I'm not allowed to leave. That this vacation of mine is cemented for the time being to just this motel room. The bed was stiff. The sheets smelled like someone else's sweat. I didn't care. After what I went through, it felt like a 5-star suite. I didn't sleep, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. The way her skin drooped and shifted. The way she whispered to me like I was her child. The way she screamed when I drove a spear through her chest. Mother. She was dead now. 1 down, 15 to go. I'd spent most of the last 23 hours staring at the ceiling, trying not to lose it. There was a Bible in the drawer. I didn't open it. There was a pen next to the laptop. I didn't write anything else. I just waited. And when the clock blinked 10:59, I stood up, faced the window, and watched the dust in the sunlight like it was the last beautiful thing I'd ever see. 11 o'clock. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. And then the room folded in on itself. I didn't feel a lurch or a pull. Just a snap. One blink and the world changed. Now I was on my knees, face pressed into rough, dusty velvet. The air was heavy with the scent of grease paint, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Blood, maybe? Or rust? I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I pushed myself up. Around me, costume racks, torn tutus, tattered tuxedos, masks with porcelain smiles. A long tilted mirror stretched across the wall behind a cluttered makeup table. All the bulbs were dead except for one, sputtering weak light like it was struggling to breathe. I was backstage. Somewhere, just beyond the curtain, I could hear it. Music. Twinkling piano keys, repeating the same 3-note phrase again and again. It was warped. Like the melody was melting. I turned, and of course he was there. Mephisto. Leaning against a dressing room door like he owned the place, which honestly he probably did. His suit today was a deep plum color, sleek and flawless, not a wrinkle in sight. His red skin looked freshly polished and his black horns gleamed under the spotlight flickering above. He held a wine glass filled with something thick and black that didn't move when he tilted it. "Ah, backstage," he said, swirling his drink. "Love the smell of desperation and rotting ambition. Reminds me of Los Angeles." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He could feel the hatred burning behind my eyes. He grinned like it tasted sweet. "Ah, you're hunting the star this time. Lucien Valaro, puppeteer, a real artiste. Very temperamental. Demands full creative control." He sipped, then made a face. "He's a little unhinged. But aren't we all?" A pause. Then he snapped his fingers. A mask dropped from somewhere above and landed in my hands. Half comedy, half tragedy. Just like the old theater cliches. I looked at it. It was made of something light, but it felt heavy. Like it was watching me. "You'll want to follow the music," Mephisto said, stepping back toward the mirror. His reflection didn't move with him. It watched me directly, eyes gleaming gold. "Try not to disappoint your adoring fans." I opened my mouth to ask what kind of freak show I was walking into this time, but he was already gone. Not vanished, not smoked away. Just absent. Like he'd never existed. The only sign he'd been there at all was the faint scent of sulfur and cologne, and the echo of a soft chuckle drifting into the walls. I was alone again, and the curtain to my next nightmare was already rising. The music followed me no matter where I turned. It came in loops, 3 broken piano notes playing over and over again like a lullaby composed by someone who had never heard joy in their life. The notes were slightly off-tempo, like the melody was limping. There was no rhythm to hold on to, just the sickly repetition that pulsed through the cracked foundation of this ruined theater like a heartbeat grown tired of beating. Backstage was a labyrinth. The corridors twisted on themselves in ways that didn't make sense. Staircases that looped back to the same landing, doors that opened into themselves, mirrors that reflected rooms I hadn't yet entered. I passed by a wardrobe where the clothes hung in midair, the sleeves twitching like they were gasping for breath. Another hallway was lined with dressing room doors, each one slightly ajar, each leaking laughter so faint I couldn't tell if it was distant or just inside my skull. The walls here bled stories. Faded posters clung to crumbling plaster, showing old plays with names that never existed. The Swan Who Never Slept, The Man Who Swallowed Time, The Devil's Curtain Call. Each image featured the same man with hollow eyes and a smile too wide for his face. Lucien, I guessed. Always center stage. Always staring right at you. The temperature dropped the deeper I went. My breath started to fog, but it didn't rise like normal. It fell. It dropped to the floor like mist, curling around my boots as if trying to drag me down. The floorboards beneath me groaned with every step. But it wasn't just the sound of age or weight. No, it was like something alive was beneath the wood shifting with me, listening, waiting. I passed a full-length mirror leaning against the wall, unframed and filthy. The glass warped like it had melted in places. My reflection wasn't quite right. I was standing still, but the reflection tilted its head, blinked a half-second out of sync, then smiled at me. I didn't smile back. I kept walking. Eventually, I found what looked like a props storage room, its rusted metal door barely hanging on a single hinge. I pushed it open and was greeted by organized chaos. Shelves crammed with cracked violins, mannequin parts, false heads, wigs crawling with moths, swords made of plastic and steel, clubs, ribbons, stilts, batons, gas lamps, porcelain hands. I sifted through them, trying not to look too long at anything that blinked. Most of it was broken, unusable, but tucked between a stack of carnival masks and an old megaphone was something that didn't belong here. A conductor's baton, wrapped in black velvet, too pristine for this dust-choked room. It pulsed faintly in my hand when I touched it, warm, as if it remembered being alive. I gripped it tight and gave it a flick, more out of instinct than reason. The walls around me trembled. A low hum vibrated through the room, knocking a few props off the shelves. The baton emitted a pitch, not loud but sharp, directional like sonar. The noise bounced into the walls, echoed once, and then I heard movement. Something had heard it too. I turned and ran, slipping through a narrow passage behind a fallen backdrop curtain, the baton now tucked into my belt like it had always been there. That's when the laughter started. Not from the walls this time, but from behind me. It was high-pitched and erratic, like a child's toy gone haywire. It stuttered between giggles and sharp guttural cackles that made my skin crawl. I didn't look back. I knew that whatever it was, it didn't want to be seen until it chose to be seen. The corridor led into a room of hanging wires, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, extending from the ceiling like spiderwebs made of piano wire. Some reached the floor, others dangled midair, spinning slightly as if something had just passed through. I stepped between them carefully, holding my breath, eyes scanning for trip lines or glints of tension. My boot touched a raised floorboard and the wires sang, a vibrating whine that echoed like a violin's death scream. And that's when I saw him. Not Lucien. Me. Across the wires, standing behind a tattered stage curtain, was a figure with my face, my body. But wrong. The eyes were too wide, pupils pinpricks in a sea of yellow. The jaw hung slack, unhinged like a broken doll's. The movements were jerky, unnatural, like every limb was being pulled by invisible threads. It cocked its head at me, then raised a hand in a slow, deliberate wave. It was my mirror, but not a reflection. A puppet of me. Its mouth opened far too wide and it began to laugh. The same distorted laugh from before. It echoed through the wires and they vibrated violently, slicing through the space between us as if reacting to its joy. I backed away. I was no longer backstage. I was in his theater now, and the show was just getting started. The puppet me didn't walk. It staggered. Its limbs twitched in unnatural angles, moving just a beat too late after each step, like someone was trying to remember how a human should move and getting it almost right. Its eyes locked on mine, wide, glassy, unblinking. The skin was too smooth, too pale. Its mouth twitched open, and in a warped version of my voice it whispered, "You're not real. I am." And then it charged. I dove to the side just as it leapt, the wires above us whipping and singing in the sudden rush of air. The thing moved fast, faster than I thought possible for something so broken. It hit the floor and twisted around mid-slide, launching itself at me with an awkward grace, limbs snapping forward like they were being pulled by someone above the stage, which they were. I rolled behind a column, heart hammering in my chest. I'd fought monsters, beasts, skeletons, a grotesque mockery of a mother. But this was me. Same build, same face, same scars. Even the small one under my jaw that I got when I was 13 trying to climb a rusted fence. Lucien hadn't just copied me. He'd studied me, rebuilt me, perfected me in his eyes. I hated it, and I couldn't look away. The puppet circled me, limbs dangling one moment, then snapping upright as the marionette strings had been yanked. It giggled, a high mechanical stutter that echoed around the hall. "One soul down, 15 more to go. Wonder what our wife will look like as a doll." That did it. I surged forward, swinging the conductor's baton like a blade. As it cut through the air, it let out a pulse, a high-pitched shriek of sound that staggered the puppet for just a second. Just enough. I followed with a punch, my knuckles cracking against its jaw. It didn't bleed. Its head snapped sideways on impact, but then it rotated fully around, twisting backward with a horrible crack. Its smile never broke. Then it mimicked my punch perfectly, swinging with mirrored speed and precision. The blow landed square in my ribs, knocking the breath out of me. It was learning, copying. I stumbled back, dodging another strike, then ducked under a kick that would have shattered my jaw. I lashed out with the baton again, this time striking its arm. The sound pulse burst through it, and I saw the wires now. Thin, nearly invisible threads embedded in its joints, leading up into the darkness above. They sparkled faintly with each blow. I had a target. I lunged again, this time not for the body, but the strings. I spun low and swept the baton across the air like a scythe. The sonic burst sliced clean through 2 of the strings. The puppet shrieked, faltering, its right arm falling limp. It looked at the arm, then back at me, and it screamed. The sound was awful, shrill, layered, like a chorus of my own voice all screaming in different tones. The lights in the room flickered violently, and I felt the floor shift, like the whole stage was breathing. The puppet's body convulsed, limbs jerking erratically, dragging itself toward me like a broken machine determined to finish its task. I backed up. I didn't want to kill it, and that was the worst part. Somewhere in the back of my mind I kept thinking, what if this thing remembers being me? What if there's something in there that knows who I am? But then I remembered the way it said Jessica's name, the way it smiled when it did. I gritted my teeth and raised the baton one last time. This time I funneled what was left of Mephisto's power into it. I felt it burn through my arms, seeping into the wood, coiling into the air around me. The baton pulsed a bright red and let out a roar. Not a tone, not a hum, but an explosion of sound that cracked the walls around us. It hit the puppet dead center. The strings snapped, one by one, curling and sizzling as they burned. It collapsed mid-charge, crumpling like a discarded toy. Its limbs twisted as it fell, and for a second, just a second, it looked peaceful, still smiling. I stood over it, breathing hard, chest heaving. My ribs throbbed, my arm ached. The demonic power was gone again, flickering inside me like a dying light bulb. I stared at the thing, and myself, and I hated how empty I felt. It was wood. Just wood, fabric, and wire. That's all it was. But it looked too much like me. And for a few moments, it moved better than I ever had. I looked down at it. The puppet was dead, but its strings weren't. They twitched on the ground, still sparkling faintly like they were reluctant to die. The ends curled unnaturally, slow and deliberate, like snakes deciding whether I was predator or prey. I knelt, cautiously reaching out. The moment my fingers touched them, I felt it. A pulse. Faint, but there. Not demonic power exactly, but close enough. The threads weren't made of silk or steel. They were memory, pain, ego, the raw essence of control. And they still had juice left. I unwound them from the corpse and wrapped them around the conductor's baton. It crackled in my hand, lightning snapping down the shaft as the weapon drank the strings. The baton darkened, hardened, its polished wood turning to something bone-white and rigid, like sculpted ivory. The tip shimmered faintly as if waiting to be used. I could feel it now. Lucien's grip on this place, and I could use it against him. The backstage corridor opened into the main theater, if you could call it that. The seating was endless. Rows of rotting chairs filled with mannequins dressed like nobles, kings, lovers, soldiers, all posed mid-clap, mid-gasp, mid-laughter. And in the center of it all, the stage. Red curtains hung like bleeding wounds, fluttering without wind. Spotlights clicked on as I stepped forward, one by one, casting me in a sharp white light. The music swelled. Then the curtains drew back. And there he was, Lucien Villaro. He hovered above the stage, surrounded by dozens of glowing strings attached to his limbs, his shoulders, skull, even the corners of his jaw. His body was skeletal, wrapped in tattered finery. An old tuxedo fused into his rotting flesh, gold trim stitched into the muscle. His face was a mask of wax and bone, stretched into a grin too wide for any human mouth. He moved like a dream unraveling. "Ah, the understudy arrives," he purred, his voice reverberating through the rafters like it came through a cracked phonograph. "You missed your cue." "I'm here now," I said, stepping onto the stage, weapon in hand. "I heard your lead actor fell apart mid-performance." He tittered, spinning in the air, strings twisting around him like a cocoon. "Aw, that little imitation of you. Cute. You moved like a toddler learning ballet." The lights dimmed. The mannequin started clapping. He'd rigged the audience, too. "Now, then, shall we begin the final act?" Lucien said, arms outstretched. The lights went black. Then a spotlight snapped on, centered on me. Lucien dropped to the stage like a marionette on a slack line. His feet didn't touch the ground. He hovered inches above it, swaying gently, the strings keeping him upright. From the sides of the stage, puppets began to shuffle in, dozens of them. Some wore masks, some had real human faces stitched to wood, some dragged swords, others held torches, musical instruments, props. One was holding what looked like a child's teddy bear, except it had a jaw. I didn't wait. I surged forward and swung the baton. It screamed. The strings around it glowed brighter, reacting to Lucien's energy. The nearest puppet exploded in a spray of splinters and teeth. I moved fast, cutting through two more, ducking under a whip made of piano wire, vaulting over a collapsing stage trapdoor. Lucien clapped, slowly and mocking. "So much rage. You're performing like a beast. This is a tragedy, darling, not a horror," Lucien said, his voice echoing from all directions. I turned, breath heaving, and shouted back, "You call this a tragedy? I've seen better writing on public bathroom walls." The mannequins gasped in unison. Lucien froze, then tilted his head like a confused owl. "What?" I kept going. "This whole thing, overproduced, confused tone, weak third act. Honestly, if I weren't stuck here, I'd be asleep by now." The strings above him trembled. Lucien's eyes widened. The control was slipping. He was unraveling. "You dare mock the great Lucien Valaro?" I cut in, mimicking his pompous tone. "You're not a playwright. You're a parasite with a spotlight fetish." The mannequin started to laugh. Lucien's body convulsed midair. The strings began snapping, one by one, unraveling like the seams of a forgotten costume. "No, the audience, they love me." "They're made of wood, Lucien," I yelled, charging forward. "Just like you." I leapt, baton raised high. It pulsed with every ounce of energy I had left. Lucien tried to pull back, but his own strings tangled, tripping him mid-flight. He hit the floor with a graceless thud, half twisted, arms flailing as his puppets turned to ash around us. I brought the baton down hard, piercing his chest. It sank through his ribcage like the stage was paper. He screamed, but this time it wasn't theatrical. It was real. The stage lights flickered, then burst. The mannequins stopped moving. Lucien's body began to dissolve into confetti, black crumbling ash that shimmered like stardust. And from it, a blue flame rose. It hovered in front of me, flickering once, twice, and then surged forward straight into my chest. I gasped. For a moment I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My heart stuttered, my eyes blurred. I was falling. And then I was back. Flat on my back, warmth on my face, the smell of dust and old linens in the air. The motel ceiling above me. The red numbers on the clock read 11:01 a.m. My lungs weren't ready for the atmosphere shift, from ash and sulfur to dust and dry motel sunlight. My body was intact, clean, whole, no blood, no wounds. And then I heard it, slow, mocking and familiar. "2 for 2, came a voice behind me. "I should start taking bets on you." I turned. Mephisto stood there, dressed in something even more ridiculous than before. A blood-red tuxedo jacket with gold trim and a bow tie that looked like it had teeth. His horns were shorter now, or longer, or curling in the opposite direction. I couldn't tell. He didn't stay consistent unless he wanted to. "Lucien was always a diva," he said, casually inspecting his nails. "Glad to see someone finally gave him the review he deserved." I didn't respond. Not right away. I was still breathing hard, trying to shake the stage lights from my retinas. The weight of the baton, No, not the baton anymore, the weapon. It still lingered in my hand, even though it was gone now. He noticed the silence and grinned wider. A little winded? Don't worry, my little superstar. You've earned your break. He held up 2 fingers, then tapped his wrist like he was pointing at a watch that wasn't there. 24 hours, give or take. Then the curtain rises again. I slowly nodded. What's next? He looked up, pretending to think, tapped his chin and smiled with all of his teeth. Let's just say the next one's got a bit of flair. Might even give old Lucien a run for his money. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping into something smooth, stickier. I wouldn't worry too much. You'll know them when you see them. That smile didn't fade. It just hung there, too wide, too still, like it had been painted on. And hey, he added, tilting his head, if you start hearing music again, don't follow it the next time. I blinked, and just like before, he was gone. No smoke, no flash, no trace. Just silence. And the clock ticking down to whatever fresh hell came next.